All right. Well, greetings, everybody. Welcome once again to the RecPoker Podcast, sponsored as always by Running Aces Racetrack, Casino, and Hotel, and website AMP. Now, in this chat's edition of the podcast, we're actually going to break down one of our seminars. We're going to take you a little bit behind the curtain, talk about one of the member seminars that we have, and kind of get in some of the highlights for that so that the whole world can hear the genius that is our seminars that are put together by Chris Jones. So we're really excited to talk about this. Before we do that, let's introduce the panel. My name is Steve Fredland. I go by RecPoker Steve in the PokerStars home game, and I'm becoming more and more convinced every day that RecPoker is the best kept secret in the poker industry based on the conversations I'm having and the people that are discovering us.
And I'm 5x5, Chris Jones. Actually, I'm Chris Jones, but I'm 5x5 on PokerStars and Twitter. Got it. Sometimes I get my identity sort of like backwards. Which one's first? Well, we're going to be talking about draws today. So I think one of the things we'll talk about is that I think overconfidence is the biggest drawback that people find with draws.
And speaking of which, I'm Jim Reed, Bluffstorini in the home game, and at Hold'em_Steelers on Twitter. And when I see a draw, I only have one move. I'm one of those people that we're talking about here. There's only one move for Bluffstorini, so I'm looking forward to learning a little myself tonight.
He goes by semi-Bluffstorini in the home game.
That's not a lie.
I am John Stomsky, Poker Geek MN everywhere, and I am just happy that I am here tonight.
Yeah, we're happy you're here too, John, man. It's getting to the end of the year, December 28th as we record this. It's going to drop in the new year. And so happy New Year, everybody that's listening to this, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you guys for sure. Before we jump into the seminar, just a couple of quick things that we're going to elaborate more on later, but just to make sure we get out there in the front of the show. Like I said, by the time you hear this, it's going to be the new year, which means some of you are listening to this going, why was I suspended from the home game? Well, you have been sort of hiding from us because we are trying to track you all down. So if you've been suspended from the home game, you don't know why you can't play the nightly home game, it's not personal. Well, in some cases it might be, but for most of you, it's not personal. It's the fact that we have a new process and you have to get your alias, your PokerStars alias in your RecPoker free membership. We'll talk more about that. Otherwise, just get a hold of us. We'll hook you up there. Secondly, Farid Jattin training sessions are coming up. My goodness, the beginning of February, they start. Buy now. It's going to be fantastic. And actually, Farid just today has agreed to come back on the podcast next week. We couldn't get enough Farid. He's so much fun, so much positivity, so much genius. We're going to have him back on the show, talk a little bit about the course. So if you have any questions about what's in the course, if you're kind of on the fence, that would be a time to jump on or shoot us a message and say, I need some clarification on what this is, and we'll ask him all of those questions. Also, we keep giving away discounts. We keep giving away drawing certificates for redemption and money off of that course. So stay tuned with that. Make sure you're checking the newsletter, checking the posts, checking the social media. We're giving $50 away all over the place. So take advantage of that deal. And then January 27th is our awards show. Things are coming together very nicely for that. I think it's going to be a really fun night. So mark your calendar on that deal. So with that, let's get into the meat of this thing. Draws, the seminar. Maybe Chris, give us a little context. What are we talking about? Maybe some folks aren't familiar with the seminars as a whole, and then let's talk about this one.
So each month at RecPoker, we do a subject where we really break it down. We get the panel going. We get a lot of conversation talking about, one topic that our members have indicated they're interested in hearing more about. So we've done some of the basics around math. We've done stuff around pot odds. We've done 3-betting. We've done getting value, finding value, bluffing, a whole bunch of different topics. And this December, we really talked exclusively about drawing hands, how to play them, how to approach them, how to differentiate them. Because I think one of the first things that we started with that I think was really a good grounding for us all to talk about is that there's this sort of excitement that comes with draws. This idea of like, I've got to draw, let's go. And sometimes that's, a good instinct, and sometimes that's not. And I think overall, what I think I see from players is that they either with draws take a too passive line or a too aggressive line, but there's that, and the ideal is somewhere in between. And so we talked about through this whole seminar, we talked about how do we find that in between? Like, what does that mean for us when we're looking at draws? Like, how do we, not just, hit the gas to the floor or just hit the brakes and like hope to hit our draw and then start, getting aggressive. Like, how do we find that balance between those things? And I think that was a large part of our conversation.
It's so good because I think, the training is so good because I feel like I'm exactly that. Like I'm very polarized in how I'm approaching it. And I feel like it's usually like, did I have too much caffeine or not that day? Like, I really don't have the strategy. It's like some days it's just like, man, let's go. And then other days it's like, oh, let's see if we hit. And I don't really know the strategy behind it. So I know that's what you guys really dug into quite a bit in December.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's, but for one quick minute here too. So folks that are going, what are these seminar things? I know if you've been listening for a while, you know what this is, but how can I watch these seminars? How can I even see these seminars? What are we talking about? How are these things available?
Yeah, so on the Rec.Poker website, anybody who's a paid member can have access to not only the current seminar, but all the backlog of seminars. We've been doing them since February. So they're all available under that seminar thing. And one of the things that we heard as part of this was that, they tend to be long because we really get into the meat and bones of these topics. So more recently, we've started breaking them down into more digestible segments. So each one now is usually a 3-parter. They're usually each about 45 minutes. The early ones are you're going to have to break them down yourselves because they're 2.5 to 3 hour marathons of conversation.
They're so good. I mean, just a little again behind the curtain too. We usually do the podcast, then we record these afterwards, and people are so hungry to talk about this, right? Like, so it's like a marathon night. It's like a 3-4 hour night often, and by the end, people are still like, let's go, let's talk about more. And so I think that's a credit to you, Chris, in a lot of ways. I know you'll deflect this, but really being strategic about putting the seminars together in a way, not only for that one seminar to kind of logically lead from one topic to the next, but as a whole. I know you spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, how do we prepare people for next May and the WSOP? So how do we get recreational players ready for a large field tournament?
Yeah, and if anybody I mean, that was the real goal before, the world changed and there was a giant pandemic and all those kinds of things.
What's this? What happened?
Yeah, right. But that was the goal when we started off. We started off with those first seminars in mind, where we wanted to get you, if you were going to go play in your first ever really big tournament, whether it was at the WSOP or, just a big local card room tournament or a big online one or whatever. We designed those first 4, it was like February, March, April, May, those first 4 seminars to kind of like build up toward that. And ever since then, we've still been doing stuff that I think is also helpful for those kinds of things. But I think it's the idea that rec players, I mean, I think all of us as rec players want to take a shot, right? Like we want to play, we want to usually have an edge on folks, but often we want to let's go try a big tournament, see how we do. And I think that was the idea with those first seminars, was how do we prepare ourselves for that?
And I know, Chris, that's I won't bring out the name because I don't know if they want to go public, but somebody in the forums was kind of going public with that, like, hey, I won this entry, I want to kind of take my shot. And we were, giving some thoughts on that, but really they were kind of picking your brain on, okay, what do I need to do to get ready? How do I need to rethink about this? I'm used to playing small tournaments. So I think that's exactly what those seminars are intended to do, is kind of prepare you to go over that next hump of how are tournament players thinking about it that are paying $1,000 for buy-in versus the free game.
Yeah, no, and there are really big differences between those kinds of tournaments. And you're going to encounter better players. You're going to encounter deeper stacks. You're going to encounter more hands to play. So there's a lot of ways that you can approach your game as you kind of think about those different fields.
For sure. So what do we want to talk about today? What about the bluffing seminar? What are some of the topics du jour that we want to tease people with on the podcast a little bit?
One question I wanted to jump in with was, you're in this, draws come up so often. There's different kinds of draws. There's different kinds of spots to be in when you've got a draw. You did a great job sort of breaking down the different kinds of draws you can have and different board textures. Can you just talk a little bit about like what are the factors that you should be thinking about for our listeners that haven't seen the seminar when they are recognizing their own draw and recognizing the spot they're in? Like what should they be thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we talked about as a group and was really the idea that there's and again, always in poker it comes with that caveat of it depends, right? But and so one of the things we're thinking about always is position and stack size, and are we in position, are we out of position? Those kinds of factors are integral to making decisions about how we approach our draws. But ultimately also there are certain types of draws that we want to be looking at and coming up with our own sort of plan for how we approach them, both on flops, turns, and rivers. And that was, we looked at not just like flushes and straight draws. Like, I think that's sort of like how most people just think about draws. Like, is it a flush draw? Is it a straight draw? Is it both? Hey, that's cool. Let's go with those. But like what we really talked about was the idea that even within those is, you've got weak flushes, you've got nut flushes, you've got strong flushes, you've got pair plus flush draws, you've got, with straight draws, you've got open enders, you've got double gutters, you've got pairs plus open enders, you've got gut shots, you've got pairs and gut shots. So there's like all these different kinds of draws, even within those categories. And then one of the other things that we really, investigated a lot more was the idea of blockers. So like when we're making decisions about, is this a hand that I want to, do I want to step on the gas or do I want to step on the brakes? I've got to draw. Yeah, we talked a lot about, having those blockers, especially when we are out of position. I think that's when it becomes even more integral. The math becomes more important out of position. All the decisions out of position with draws become much more important. In position, you can kind of like react a little bit more. You can sort of like have a little bit of a chance to see how the hand plays out a little bit. But out of position, you've really got you've got to have a lot of things decided in advance, and it helps to do that work before you get to the table, so that you're not just saying, think I'm going to be aggressive this hand.
Right. I'm kind of curious. Jim, did you have a follow up to that at all, or?
Oh, I guess
Yeah,
a little. Like you talk about like how you might fold with certain ones, call with certain ones, check raise with certain ones, and maybe just as one example, could you talk about the difference between having like the nut flush draw and a weaker flush draw, or why you might choose to do one with that or with the other?
Yeah, I mean, so the way I often think about, whether I'm gonna sort of like let's just take flushes for example. Like if I had nut flush draw, a strong flush draw, and a weak flush draw, and I'm out of position, and let's just say, it's not some like crazy stack. We're in a sort of a moderate stack size, so we've got 40 to 50 big blinds. We're not short stacked, we're not mega stacked, and so that's kind of the situation where we're talking about a lot of these spots. And I think the ones where we want to find ourselves taking aggressive line are our strongest and our weakest. If everything being equal, we want to find like it's the polarized thing that we think about when we're thinking about other hands that we're dealing with. But this is one where we're thinking about not just our strongest hands and our weakest hands, but our strongest draws and our weakest draws. They make the best ones to get the most aggressive with, because a strong draw can withstand being played back at, and a weak draw can withstand folding being played back at without having sort of all the regrets of like, oh man. But that it's that really middling ground draw. If we've got, I don't know, queen 10 suited on a a 3 or 2 heart board, and we've got queen 10 of hearts, that's one that we want to, and there's not an ace or king on there, so it's potentially like a third nut draw hand. It's one we probably want to get some money in, we want to play it, but we might not want to go to the mat with it. because we can be sort of outkicked and outflushed sometimes. So that was some of the conversation we had. I don't know if everyone would agree with it, because I'm trying to summarize it, because one of the beauties of these seminars is not just me yammering on. It's like it's the whole group talking about ideas and different approaches. How do we approach these different spots? But that was a good part of where our conversation landed.
Yeah, and I think that's the feedback I get from people that have participated in them or listening in on some of them, is they like the interactive piece. And I think that's so true to everything that we're trying to do, is let's learn in the context of community. Like we know some of us are going to be wrong, some are going to be right. Maybe we're all wrong, maybe we're all right. Who knows? But there's going to be that lively interactive discussion. And I think from Farid on down, Farid talks about it all the time. Learning in community is so critical. And so I love how you do that. How you do the work to make it a great guided conversation, but leave the door open for different perspectives on that. I'm curious, one thing I think about with draws a lot, and I see this a lot, in myself and in other recreational players, is the whole, I've got a draw, I'm in position, somebody bets, they lead into me, whatever, maybe they're the pre-flop aggressor, and I think, okay, I got the odds to call, right? I've got 8 outs or I've got 9 outs, and there's 2 cards to come, so I do the math, right? The rule of 4 says, oh, I've got the right odds to call, so I make the call, and then they make the same, ratio size bet on the river, and now on the turn, and now I don't have the odds to call, so I fold. And I think, a lot of us get stuck into that, where we think, okay, I'm going to see 2 cards, so I have the right odds, but we don't ever see 2 cards. We just call, we don't hit, and then we fold, and it just feels like such a losing strategy. So maybe talk a little bit about how do we kind of get out of that rut of.
I remember from our I don't know, I don't want to necessarily put him on the spot, but I remember from our seminar that I felt like John had just he would talk exactly about that. Like that rule of 4 is a very deceptive rule, and I don't know if you want to if I'm putting you on the spot, John. Sorry, but like I thought that was a great conversation and part of the seminar that you brought.
Yeah.
To
So basically, the rule of 2 and the rule of 4, just as a quick review for those who don't remember it, is if you take the number of outs and you multiply it by the rule of by 2, that'll be about the percentage chance you have of making your draw in 1 card. If you have you multiply it by 4, because if you have 2 cards coming. However, there's this little thing called the turn bet that gets in the way. So you can really only use the rule of 4 reliably if it's an all-in bet. So there will be no more betting on the turn. Or if you feel there is a really good chance that someone will opt not to bet the turn again and give you a free river card, then that might be an option to use it as well. But in general, I usually just use the rule of 2 to figure out, what do I want to do for this very next bet? And that's one of the reasons why you might consider raising with the draw, is because you're not getting the proper odds. And now all of a sudden you can take this non-proper odds draw, you raised with it, and now all of a sudden you're gaining some fold equity. And hopefully you're getting enough fold equity to make the draw overall profitable, because there will be some percentage of the time that your opponent will fold. And then that's immediate profit right there. You didn't have a hand, all you had was a draw, therefore you're good to go there. Or if the opponent does call, you still have a chance to make your draw. It's basically turning it into a semi-bluff at that point in time. So that's why drawing and betting work so well together, is because it gives you enough extra equity to make those draws profitable, but yet you have to be careful. I remember initially when I started playing poker, I always played my draws passively, just check call and tried to look whether or not I was getting the proper pot odds, and sometimes calling even if I wasn't, and which is just a way of, you hit your draw and you're still theoretically losing money because you're not hitting it often enough to.
Unless you're playing against me and your implied odds are like, way through the roof.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
I'll stack off against you.
Exactly.
And I mean, the other part of this that I think is sort of like inherent in the question even is that I think we had a lot of conversation around, is that a lot of people, when we're talking about draws, think about flops, right? It's like, I've got a flop draw. So how do I approach this? But I think that one of the things that we want to be thinking about is those future streets. And so we talked a lot about what do we do on turns, after we've taken either that passive calling action or that aggressive raising action, whatever we've done to get to this turn, what do we do on, because always we're sort of dreaming of like, okay, we've got the nut flush and we spike it, let's go, right? But that sometimes the turn comes and we had the nut flush draw and an ace comes, or sometimes we had the nut flush draw and we had ace six of hearts and a six comes. Like, what do we do now? Like, and those are a lot of the conversations we had as well, is like, how do we play these hands when we had a sort of a dream card and it didn't quite get there, but our hand improved. So now what do we do? And I think that's a really interesting topic to think about, how you're going to approach draws. Is how do I approach it? Not just when I get the dream card, because that's pretty easy to play. Well, it's not actually. Actually,
Well,
I shouldn't say that.
it's
Sometimes
easy to
it's not
win the
that easy,
hand,
but
yeah.
yeah, it's easy to win the hand. Right.
Yeah, I love it all because it's so many of the different building blocks of poker that come together in those kinds of conversations, right? There's the whole piece. Okay, well now the semi bluff piece. There's the scare card piece, like you're saying. Certain cards might come, they don't hit you, but they might scare your opponent, so they might be worth a bet, or they're in their range. It's hand ranging. There's so many elements. I mean, John talking about fold equity. If you have certain odds you're going to hit, and then you raise and they call, yeah, you still have the same odds of hitting. Like, that hasn't changed. But the fact that you picked up 40% of the time they're going to fold, that might make the math the correct play. And so there's all of these different pieces that come into play, when you're talking about these draws. I love it.
And I think something that people don't, it's not perfectly intuitive, but you can actually, even without a made hand, you can be ahead with the draw from an equity point of view. So like sometimes, a classic example, I just pulled it up in Equilab here. So let's say the flop's 9 of hearts, 8 of hearts, 2 of clubs, and your opponent has the 9 of diamonds and the 4 of diamonds. So they've got top pair. And you've got the 10 of hearts and the jack of hearts. So you've got 2 overs, you've got a flush draw, you've got an open-ended straight draw. You don't have a made hand, but your equity in the hand is 68.89%, and your opponent with top pair is 31.11%. So you can confidently expect to win that hand twice as often as they will, even though they have top pair and all you have is a draw. So there are powerful draws out there that you actually have the luxury sometimes of deciding, and do I actually just want to realize my equity here? Or can I make what's almost like an impossible to refute shove, because you don't even need to fold equity. You just get to realize that equity. And the times that they do fold only add to your stack there as well. So, and that's a pretty extreme example, to have 2 overs and an open-ended straight draw and a flush draw, but stuff like that happens a lot. It happens.
Yep.
And just to put it in perspective to how valuable it can be against a 1-pair hand, especially if you're in position, you don't even need to have all those. Like, you could also represent those later as bluffs. So that's another part of draws that I know we talked about. But
now, I assume when you looked at that example, you were sort of evaluating the case where you're up against the Jack 10 of hearts with your 9-4 of diamonds. Is that?
Well, even I don't play that 9-4 of diamonds card.
Sounds like.
Well, good. Well, anything, I know this is just, we're not going to get into the whole conversation. We've got, a couple of hours of seminar conversation about this. If you're a member of RecPoker, paid member, you have access to this. You have access to all of the past ones. We'd love to have you go out there, kind of check it out, let us know what you think. But anything else that we want to touch on with that seminar, Chris?
One other thing that I would just throw out about this seminar and the other seminars is that we always bring in some sort of expert videos as well from some of our partners. So in this one, we had Lexi Gavin and Ryan LaPlante. Lexi has a whole poker coaching thing about playing draws, which I think is it's a fabulous piece. And then also Ryan does these weekly hand reviews with just all people that are part of Learn Pro Poker. And we looked over a specific drawing hand, which I thought was a really interesting one. It was a small blind versus big blind one, which I think is it gets really tricky to play draws when you're in that spot. And I thought it was a really interesting hand and a really good conversation that we had around that. So.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up. If you guys don't know, we have 15 minutes a month of premium content from all of our partners that we can share through different avenues. So we share some of that through Learn with Partners, some of that through the seminars, and so you kind of get a piece of all of these other membership sites just as part of your RecPoker membership. And we're trying to leverage that as much as we can to really optimize. And I think incorporating that into the seminars is a tremendous use of that as well. All right. Well, anything else to share about the seminar or draws? I know you guys could talk like 6 more hours on this stuff.
I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. What tease the next one that's going to be coming up?
Well, actually, yeah, we're recording very soon. We're going to be recording our January seminar. It's going to be all about tells and reads.
Yeah.
Which I am very excited for this one, because I would say this is one where I feel on loose footing, because it's not something that I incorporate very much. I'm very math driven in my game. I'm very, understanding board textures and those kinds of reads and hand reading. And I player typing is something that I'll look at. I guess you could call that sort of a tell, but I'll look at, okay, what type of player is this? What kind, and that's how I help estimate their sort of opening ranges and things like that. But when we get down to like, oh, they scratched their nose here, I'll honestly say I've never used that, and I would love to be able to make those, because I never know what to do with the idea that, oh, somebody looks nervous here, because I'll tell you, I feel nervous when I have it and when I don't have it. So I don't know how other people. So it'll be a great conversation. We're going to have Zach Elwood join us, who's kind of it's either him or Mike Caro is the godfather of tells. So that'll be a great conversation. And then we're going to actually look at, we're going to watch some tables. One, a very recreational table. It's a charity tournament that I found on YouTube, and one sort of a higher stakes MSPT. We're going to look at the players. We're not going to really evaluate the hands, but just try to look at how are people behaving? What are things that we're noticing in terms of like physical reads and physical tells? So it should be a good conversation.
Oh, yeah, way to bury the lead too. Yeah, we'll just have Zach Elwood pop in for an hour to talk about tells with our premium members. Oh my God, that's going to be sweet. So if you're in the chat box tonight, Ben, Doug, Jim, Kim, and Martha, go to the events calendar and just click on the recording for the seminar tonight, and you can come hang out with Zach Elwood and us and talk about tells.
Yeah,
we have the best jobs.
I know, right? Pretty sweet stuff, right? I know we're going to hang out with Farid. We'll hang out with Zach Elwood, Negranu, Moneymaker. These are just people, but they're all generous people with their time, and they've got a talent, they've got a skill, and they're willing to share it with recreational players. And I think part of it is, they're trying to grow the game, and we're all trying to learn the game. And I think what a great investment to spend some time with people that really are passionate about the game. And, one of the things that we hear all the time from the folks that are on the podcast or involved other ways, these big names are like, oh, it was just so refreshing to be around people who just love the game. Because I think a lot of them they're into the business of it, they're into the playing of it. It becomes a grind, it's whatever. And so I think it kind of reminds them what it was like to play poker when it was just fun, right? When you're all competitive, but it's just fun and energetic and positivity. And so I think we're doing them a favor by letting them, we're just here to help out.
Yeah, indeed.
But no, that's fantastic. Yeah. So about an hour from now, the seminar is going to be recorded. So tell your other fellow members to get out there. So, all right. Well, with that, why don't we transition to some of the community stuff? But before we do,
oh, for God's sake!
You did the point.
You pointed.
Guys.
You pointed. You did the point.
I don't think anybody.
Guys, did he do the point or didn't he do the point?
Well, I did the point because I was trying to get you ready. That's my fault. All right, my
Who
fault.
could really say?
What's the definition of the word cue? Okay, let's just keep that in.
No,
sound
this was
engineer.
my fault. All right, so when I do my left hand. That was my fault. I did cue him. Thank you, Draybeck. Yeah, I did cue him. I was cueing him to get ready, but you're right. Okay, so Jim, pretty soon I'm going to be pointing at you.
Oh, thanks, Steve. I can't wait for your.
All right, so
I consent to your pointing.
So Jim.
So are you cueing him to get ready?
This is the pre-cue.
Or
pre-cue.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you know queuing theory, John? I figured you probably would as a programmer know queuing theory. This is part of queuing theory. All right, so
yeah, we just either queue or not queue. You have to queue before you queue, so you're ready to queue when you need.
I should have bet $1 million on this.
Taking the over.
But I'd have to pay out because I'm the one that screwed it up. All right, so I'm setting it up. I meant to cue you, but I'm setting it up. So we do have a new sponsor. PokerCoaching.com. I'm in the old thing. Thank you, Jonathan. He's listening going straight. No, PokerCoaching.com is one of our new sponsors, and with that, we're actually going to be playing a quick ad in our podcast. It's a new thing for us, so we're figuring out the kind of logistics of it. We don't like to do all this hours of post editing stuff. So when I cue Jim, I'm not pointing yet. I'm just preparing to point. When I cue Jim, we're going to play a little audio. We're going to hang out here while it plays. It's like 30 seconds. But I'm just, from this point forward, we'll probably have this as part of the podcast. But it helps us pay the bills, keep the lights on, and keep giving you good content. And so I do recommend check out Jonathan Little, PokerCoaching.com. We'll play it now.
Have you ever wondered whether you should call a preflop raise or 3-bet instead? What do you do when you have a flush draw? Do you raise it or do you just call? What do you do with ace-king when you miss the flop? Are you tired of guessing about what the right play is with your particular hand? Well, my name is Jonathan Little, and I am a 2-time World Poker Tour champion and creator of PokerCoaching.com, where we offer over 1,000 interactive hand quizzes where you play a hand and then get real-time feedback from our world-class pros. Don't guess and don't stress. Just register for your free account at PokerCoaching.com/RecPoker right now.
Yeah, easy for him to say, don't stress. Come on.
There it is. Nice job. All right. So there's our sponsorship of the week. But thanks, Jonathan, for being part of this thing. But let's transition now. Let's talk a little bit about home games now. This is our last recording of the chats episode for the year. So, John, how are we looking, man?
Well, we have a bunch more winners because, of course, we have 10 tournaments each week now.
Crazy.
So, Chatty Cat 222, Kathy Karen, won her second daily series. Dan D. Resg got his third or her third daily series. Fortune NY, Jamal Cuevas got his first daily tournament. Now I was shocked that was
that can't be right.
Daily win. No, it is. It's his first daily win. He's had lots of other wins, and he's been like in the No Limit Hold'em series. He won the leaderboard, but this is his first daily series win.
Congrats, Jamal.
Schneid's 33. Danny Schneider got his fifth daily series win.
That's it.
And of course, we couldn't have a week without Magra 44 Doug Draybeck getting his 11th daily series win
on Christmas, no less.
Yeah, and he complains that he doesn't do as well in just the daily series versus the international series.
Well, he doesn't. He only has 11 wins. Come on.
So,
nice win, Doug. Merry Christmas. And Danny, Christmas Eve, too. Good for you, buddy.
Yeah. Then we had a late Christmas gift for Luke 7. Mark Bloomberg got his third daily series win. And also on Boxing Day, Jasper Jr. Patrick Berry won the daily mixed series event. Evil Roy CA got his third international series victory. And I Hate to Lose William Alexander got his very first international daily victory.
Nice.
And
wait, really? Wow, because I Hate to Lose all over.
Well, because
international.
Yeah, okay.
International tournament in the daily series.
Yes, good call. Thank you. You.
You're like, what?
And then Shamu 27-140, Roger Lamp, got his fourth daily series victory.
Nice, Roger.
Was this planned out Christmas, and then there's Boxing Day, whatever Boxing Day is, 3 tournaments on a Canada Day or whatever?
Don't you know what Boxing Day is? That's when the churches would take the box of alms and distribute them to the poor the day after Christmas. It's also the day when historically the lords would basically give their servants off so they could spend the day, celebrate Christmas the day after Christmas with their family.
Well, I had a different understanding of what it is, but I'm not going to share it. I actually had a different understanding, but I'm not going to share it. Now it's embarrassing.
Oh no! What is it?
No,
the day
I'm
you
not
go and
sure. Jim, what were you
you
going
go
to
and
say?
return all the boxes of gifts that you didn't like. That
Right.
people-
That'd be a very Americanized version of Boxing Day, wouldn't it? It's Returns Day.
Right. Well, actually, it's kind of become that at least in England. It's like their Black Friday. It's like a big shopping day.
Is that right?
Maybe not this year, but
I'm so glad that John Somsky just nailed the definition
Yeah.
for Boxing Day, though. This guy's a
Genius.
machine. I love that.
Guy's a genius. Well, John, how are we doing on the? I know at this point, like we said at the beginning, people are already suspended by the time they're hearing this.
Yep.
How are we sitting as of December 28th as far as progress made toward?
So when we first started this, we had 262 players that were going to be suspended. Back in as of November when we first announced this, and now let me get to the right tab here so I can see the numbers. We are down to just 148.
Okay, good.
That are left. So, and we have 167 that are members in good standing. So I am happy to say more people will be left able to play than will be suspended. But anyone who gets in there and does it, it's too late for me making this note now, but I have to manually go through and suspend all of you who don't do this. So it makes it less work for me if you just sign up, and then you'll be able to play too.
yeah. And by the way, because there's some big names, regulars on our list, like there'll be a softer field if you get in there quicker, because we're going to suspend some of the good players. So
Oh my gosh, I'm playing January 1st no matter what. Like, I'm getting in there, man. That's funny. Yeah, and I know just hats off to you, John. Again, I know it's sort of a broken record, but I was working. I don't want to give names out because I don't know, what privacy there is or whatever. But I know there's a group of people that are older out there, some of our older audience, and you guys play in these home games every night, and you have a champion of yours who I'm connected with, and she was just like, how do we get these people so they don't get suspended? They love playing the home game every night. It's part of what they just love doing. Part of their community is hanging out with the RecPoker people and chatting with us and all that kind of stuff. And we were able to organize all of that, get them situated, because they don't really have the technology and the sort of the aptitude for that to just do it themselves and get all set up. So we got all that information. John updated all that stuff, got everybody live and active. And so just shout out to you again, John. But to those of you who are wondering why we care so much about community, this is why. We have all these people that we know across multiple generations that are playing this thing, and you wonder why we've kicked people out of the thing on occasion. It hasn't happened for a while, but for making a snide comment or whatever, community is the core of what we do. And knowing that we've got these 70, 80, 90-year-old people out there playing in our home game, that it's the highlight of their day hanging out with us. That's why we do what we do, and it's so much fun. So thank you to who you are for championing these folks and sending me information about how good playing online poker is for their mental state and all of these things. We feel like we're doing a service to that community. So thanks to that. And John, thank you for doing all you do. And yeah, I mean, if you need to curse under your breath at every person you're suspending, I'd say just do it. And maybe video it too. Maybe we could have a piece of you video just saying I hate you and saying their name and I hate you.
But the thing is more than I hate them, or more than the work is, I'm gonna miss playing with them.
Yeah.
I really want
true.
everyone to be there. It really is a lot of fun. People are shocked at how much fun it is and how much they want to win these play money tournaments.
Yeah,
and the only reason it's worth it is because we've decided that they are. We as a community has decided that it's something that is worthwhile and important to win. So, it's up to us to take it seriously and make the most of it.
I love that. That's so well said. And I do get emails at least one a week, maybe a couple a week, that are like, hey, I won the tournament. When will my name be said on the podcast? And that's pretty fun, right? People love that shout out. I do. I love when you were forced to read my name, John. It hasn't happened for a while, but I love putting you in that spot. Well, we'll get
and I I like mangling everyone's name even when I'm trying not to.
I'm glad it's you that has that responsibility, dude, because who knows what they intended, right? Like Dan D's Rezga, or is it Dandra Zg? Is it D and Res G? Like, what is it? What do they mean? I want to know, but we don't know. So we'll just let you keep playing with that. Well, before we thank you again, John. Before we move on to the next thing, let's get the winners figured out here. So tonight, Jim, just take it away. Let them know what they're going to win here.
All right. So yeah, the winner tonight, I have to use one of my boring old-fashioned dice, but I'm going to, out of love for this crew. You can win a $50 coupon for the Farid Jattin course, and that coupon can get stacked on top of all sorts of other big discounts. You can even stack the coupons on top of other coupons. So I know some people are going to get a great deal on this, but one of these 5 lucky folks will go alphabetically from the top down. We'll strike the 6. The roll comes 6. That's a re-roll. Sorry, guys. Dead air. Dead air. Bad podcast.
That would have been one of our members had they joined.
A 1. Ben again. Ben
Nice.
won. Oh, Ben's paying off being at the top of
Good.
the alphabet. All right. Congratulations, Ben. Send me an email, jim@rec.poker, just to reference this, and I'll add your name to the almighty spreadsheet.
I'm still shocked that it's not over. You sure there's not like a river card that Drebeck can hit here? There's no more. There's no out here.
Well, we are going to do another draw at the seminar, so there's another chance to pick up another $50 there.
Fair enough. Congrats, Ben. Fantastic stuff. Well, anything else, guys, before we wrap up? Anything else that we need to share for the good of the order? No, nothing. Everybody's good. All right, guys. Well, what's that?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, you guys, 2021, we survived 2020. Not all of us, but we did. If you're listening to this, you did. Not all of us did, but a number of us did, and it was tough, and hopefully the next few months get us transitioned back to 2021 into a normalcy, whatever that is, the new normal, the different normal, whatever. But man, I mean, live poker is obviously a part of that thing, but that's just a small part. Hopefully we can just start breathing easier day after day, because we live in a world that's a little bit more less dangerous, I guess, if you will, from just walking out on the streets day to day. So we made it. We made it to 2021. Hopefully we don't have this conversation again next year. I don't think we will be. But before we let you go, make sure you go to rec.poker. There's a ton of stuff out there. I mentioned the Farid Jattin course is out there in its entirety. A lot of great stuff out there. Check that out. Ask us questions. Home game, rec.poker/home game. All the information about all the series, the results for 2020, what's coming up for 2021, the awards show January 27th. Make sure you're signed up for the newsletter. There's a lot of information in there, but every week we send stuff out. That's a great way to stay plugged in as well. But I want to thank our sponsors. Small Business Community is one of our sponsors, smallbusiness.com. It's really all about helping people kind of in the midst of this COVID thing, figure out where they're going as a company, how they get past the hurdles that they have in their way. Great stuff there. And also Running Aces Racetrack, Casino, and Hotel. You know them. They're our ongoing sponsor. For sure, thanks to our panel, Chris Jones, Jim Reed, John Somsky, Ben, Doug, Jim, Kim, Martha. Thanks for jumping on here. And we will check you out next week. See you guys.